This one is called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and this is a very quiet little poem. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
In Robert Frost's poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, stanza 1. Whose woods these are I think I know, his house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. The woods belong to someone the speaker knows, but the landowner does not live in the woods. This lets the reader know that the speaker is alone. No one is around to run into the speaker as he stops in this particular snowy wood. No one would be wondering about this person stopping to watch the woods fill up with snow. So we have a feeling of isolation, but it is not sorrowful or upsetting, but calm and peaceful. The idea that the speaker knows who owns the woods is calming and not frightening. Frost uses hyperbole when he describes the wood as filling up with snow. Woods can't really fill up with snow. The use of the words fill up are also peaceful. When something is full, it is satisfied and complete. This descriptive, figurative language paints a beautiful picture of snow heavily falling in the woods. In stanza 2, my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. When the speaker talks about his little horse, it makes the reader think that the horse is a companion, a friend and a beloved pet. The horse is given human-like characteristics. Personification is used when the speaker comments that the horse is thinking his behavior odd. By this line, my horse must think it queer, we know that the speaker, stopping to admire the snowy wood, is out of place and out of the norm. He usually doesn't stop on his way home to watch the snowfall. In the last line of this stanza, the darkest evening of the year, it makes the reader question whether there is possibly no moon that night. It may be near the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. The tone of this stanza is a little different. The words queer, stop without a farmhouse near, frozen lake, and darkest evening connote possibly an ominous feeling. The reader might think that something bad might happen. Will something jump out of the woods? Will the passerby come across a dangerous wild animal? The word choice or diction leads the reader's mind to dark places. In stanza 3, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. In stanza 3, the reader's fears are allayed with the playful, quizzical shake of the horse's harness bells. Again, the horse is given human-like qualities, as the second line says, to ask if there is some mistake. The horse is not frightened, but simply confused. Again, the reader's fears are calmed by the reference to the sweep of easy wind and downy flake, the only other sound the speaker hears. These words, easy and downy, are calming. The tone and mood returns to soft tranquility and contentment. The last stanza, stanza 4. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. In the last stanza, in the first line, lovely is equated with dark and deep, making these words also less frightening, but somewhat mysterious. It is almost as if the speaker is contemplating staying there in the woods. We know that this would be a bad idea. What happens when one stays out in the snow too long? Hypothermia, frostbite, and eventual death. Again, the reader is put slightly on edge by the mystery of the deep, dark woods that seem to be beckoning to this passerby. The word "but" in the second line of the last stanza changes everything. It brings the reader back, as well as the poem's speaker, to a more sensible, logical conclusion. He must keep going. He has promises to keep. The speaker has obligations and probably a family to get home to. The words "miles to go before I sleep" is a powerful line that alludes to the speaker's eventual death. It can be thought of as a metaphor for life. Life is a journey, and this speaker has miles to go before he can take a break. This repetition of the last line reinforces the importance and significance of this idea. This poem is meaningful to me because it was one of my dad's favorite poems. He loved the outdoors and spent as much time as possible hunting, camping, and fishing. My dad passed away a few years ago, and in his last days, I read many of Robert Frost's poems to him. Robert Frost was one of his favorite poets. Frost poems are very connected to nature and the beauty of the outdoors, and poems such as this one reminds me of my dad.